But here's what I know. I know that if you divide healthcare into three main parts, all the routine services, think about primary care, x-rays, generic medications, colonoscopies, mammograms, mental health, like normal stuff. The 90% of services, 90% of the people need 90% of the time. That doesn't represent, it's 90%, but it doesn't represent of the volume, but it doesn't even represent 5% of the dollars. Like, just think about that for a second. And then there's another middle layer that probably is about 3 times bigger than that, called specialists, advanced imagery. So like PET scans, MRIs, all the specialists, cardiologists, orthopedic surgeons, gynecologists, et cetera, et cetera. And then above that, where all the money is, think about health systems, hospital systems, big pharma, huge money. I mean, that's where the other 85% is, the tip of that spear, tip of that pyramid, where there's so little volume, but all the money is out there. And that's what controls the system. And the entry point into healthcare is at the top of that hierarchy. It's not at the bottom, it's at the top. And when it's at the top, you're going to spend more money. It's just, you're going to, that blood pressure cuff in that hospital easily costs 10 times more than I could buy it for from one of the distributors. Easily 10 times, probably 100 times more. But what you're really paying for is the shelf space that the blood pressure cuff is sitting on. And then they happen to use 3 of them when they could use 1. I get that issue too. But the first issue is, before they use 3, is that what's the cost of 1 even is so much more because it's in a hospital. And so what's happened today is that the health systems are all PE or owned right now, private equity owned. They're all, like, for the big part of it. I shouldn't say all.
Yeah, for the audience, can you like go why that's a big deal? Like why PE owning that?
What if a private equity firm buys a hospital system? They're buying it so that they can triple the value of it, quadruple the value of it in 4 years, 5 years, and then sell it to another private equity firm. That's the whole model. So it's not, anyone in business knows it's not easy to 4x a business in 4 or 5 years. That's not easy. So what would you do? You're going to pull out every stop you can. And if a hospital system, if I was a PE firm and I bought a hospital system or had a bunch of hospital systems, my first move would be that I would buy the entry point into healthcare so I can control it. I'd buy the urgent cares. I'd buy the imaging centers, the x-ray centers, I would have pharmacy benefit management companies that control the flow of drugs. And I would control that. And that way, everybody enters the system as entering my system. That's what I would do. So that's a lot of, there's a lot of money at the top of that pyramid, top of that hierarchy. And my take on it with our membership model is I don't want the money from the consumer. I just want to stop somebody from getting up top. And that's what creates the value. And that's what makes our membership worth something, is if we keep the money in the consumer's pocket, our membership is worth more. Very similar to Costco. Keep the money in right. Let them buy the TVs, have a better selection than anyone else, have better prices than anyone else. Their membership is worth more. It's hard to imagine giving up your Costco membership, even if you haven't gone there for 6 months. I don't remember a lot of someone went to Costco and I have a membership. I don't even know what I pay for it anymore. I know I have a membership. And I know my wife goes there a lot. And I know people in my business go there a lot. So there's no reason for me to necessarily go there because other people do for me. But I wouldn't even imagine, like, if somebody came to me and say, hey, we're going to save some money and get rid of our Costco membership. Even if it was my wife, I go, honey, what are you talking about? Why? You can't do that. I don't know why, but no, just keep our membership. It's huge value for what we pay, right? The price is right for what we pay and the peace of mind it gives me. And so that's how I think about it. You're back to your question though, about the powers to make a lot of money. I want to make this point. And I'm not just saying this because I got beat up when I didn't make this point well. I really do believe this in my heart now. I didn't believe it back then. I thought back then I was dealing with a whole bunch of very evil people who are trying to fleece America. I believe that. And so a lot of my actions, a lot of my talk, my rhetoric even was based on that belief. I don't believe that anymore. I believe we got a system problem right now in America. As I dove into this problem, it's a system problem. And meaning there's very good people who are trying to do something in this terrible system. So it's good people, but bad system. And when you have a bad system, you put good people into it, the output's going to be bad, but the people are good. And I've seen over and over again that people that I thought were bad were conniving and scheming and trying to make money. No, they're just trying to help people. And the way they have to help people because of the system is by scaring you. Right? And in our own clinics, there was times where the big insurance companies, they were forcing my doctors that work for me, to they were forcing me. I had no choice if I wanted to stay in business for 6 months even, to go collect irrelevant diagnoses on you and your family so that they could charge the government to get money.
Wow.
Irrelevant diagnoses. What does that mean? That means you come in, you got a sprained ankle. You come in, I've got to work you up, and I got to make sure I code that you had had skin cancer 5 years ago. I got to code that. I got to code that you have diabetes, and I got to code it the right way, and I got to code that it might affect your kidneys, and I got to code it the right way. But I'm treating your sprained ankle. So I spend so much time collecting these irrelevant diagnosis codes from you that how much attention does your sprained ankle get, which is the thing you need right now. It's over and over for years and years and years and years. And it was just getting worse. And as the share price of insurance companies went up, the only way they could keep the share prices up and continue to satisfy shareholders is to do more of it. So it was really obvious to me, as a big reason I started Redirect Health, big reason I wanted to get out of the clinic space, is I couldn't stand that game because I saw where it was going. And Dan Sullivan and Street Coach, right? It really got me thinking about systems and projecting into the future, and what happens if this happens, and what happens. Just help me think about how the future was going to unfold. And so I didn't see any future that I like, that I want to be part of in that game. And I still don't want to be part of that game, but I do want to be a part of helping people navigate it, because I realize that system is what we have today. And until it changes, that's what we have. And people are still going to get sick. People are still going to have babies. People are still going to be worried about things, and we have to help them. We don't have to, but I want to. It's the easier it is for me to do it, the more I want to do it.
Yeah. So, Dave, if people are listening to this, I think everything you're saying, people are like, yes. I can just imagine the audience are like, yes, yep, preach, brother. Yep, yep. Because we have all these different things, and I appreciate your context being like, these aren't evil people. This is just a shitty system that is like creating shitty results. Like, not
it wasn't it was not a system. I used to think it was a system that was created on purpose. I don't think that anymore, because created on purpose implies people did it and they thought about it in boardrooms. I don't think that anymore, man. I was so wrong, and I judged so harshly. And maybe that anger that I had because of that was necessary at the beginning. It's not necessary now. And it certainly doesn't help with the collaboration that I need with the people who care about this big problem of healthcare in America. But I recognize the system wasn't created this way. It evolved this way. Little by little by little by little by little. And now it's so complex that even the smartest, most capable people in the world, the Jeff Bezos, the Warren Buffetts, the Jamie Dimons, the Mark Cubans, Larry Ellison, they haven't fixed it yet. That's how complicated. That's how this system has evolved. If these people, with all the resources and the smartness and the people and genius around them and within them, can't solve this, guess what? This is a system problem.
Yeah, 100%.
And it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. Isn't that interesting?
I mean, that's like, when you say that, like, we're like the greatest country in the world, yet this problem doesn't exist anywhere else. Why?
A lot of money, big corporations, control law. I don't know how to simplify it. I'm not an expert in what all that means. It's the most reasonable explanation. When I heard the phrase, and I understand, and I started to understand what it means and all the moving parts, it was and it happens in every industry in America. I don't think it happens as much in other parts of the world, but I don't know that for sure. But I do know there's a lot of money right now in healthcare, and a lot of expectations for share price that go up everywhere that just didn't exist in Canada, where I grew up. At least not the same way it did today. And that system requires fear, and in order to operate, in order to get people to spend money they don't want to spend put towards a part of their GDP. It takes fear. Without that fear, you can't get people to do what they're doing. But with that fear, you're compromising peace of mind. And in America, I don't think we value peace of mind as much as we value discomfort that helps us progress. And I'm saying that's a great thing. Discomfort helps us progress. I think that's a great thing. But I am saying that there are some things in America that shouldn't apply to as much. And I'll give you another example side of healthcare. Drinking water. I believe that you and me and every American here out there believes right now that if we turn on a tap anywhere in America, we could take that water and feed it to our child and that child's safe. Why is that? Because there's no free market around that. That's just an expectation that water is going to be safe in America. You can't say that all over the world, but you can say that in America. But there's no corporate capture of that, right? It's treated like a utility. And we wouldn't want safety of drinking water to be anything but a utility. We wouldn't safety of electricity coming over a wall to be anything but a utility company. We wouldn't want that. Right. So we probably don't even want the safety of our roads, meaning that, how well maintained they are and how they're designed so cars don't crash into each other. We wouldn't even want that to be a free market. Like there's some things that are better served, that better serve us as entrepreneurs, as free market capitalists. It serves us better if there is some government control over it. And I just named a few. Public education is another. So why not access to healthcare? Access. I'm not talking about like so people can't buy, if you want to buy water you believe is safer, you can. But that doesn't mean that the person who doesn't buy it is going to get unsafe water. The same thing with healthcare. It doesn't mean if you want to buy better healthcare, you can't. But it shouldn't mean that in America, with all the resources we have and all the money we waste in healthcare, to me, it just doesn't make sense that we can't create a peace of mind to people like that's similar to your peace of mind that the water that your child drinks 10 years from now, 10 years ago, in any tap out of America is going to be safe. Think of the peace of mind you have around that. You don't even think about it, you have so much peace of mind. It doesn't even register you have so much peace of mind. So I'm saying that as Americans, we could do that. The resources are here. And what we're starting to see now is the will is starting to get there too. Right? With the people that I mentioned earlier, Ellison, Cuban, Bezos, Buffett, Diamond. The will is there. But they got to fight some big money. Like I'm sure of that. And a lot of them are showing some courage now that I know is going to be very necessary because there's going to be something they would lose, right? When they do it.
So let's go the opposite end of the spectrum, right? So we want some surety there. So you came from Canada. So is universal healthcare, is that the utility that like solves the problem?
No, I would reject it because it requires definitions. And I think you're going to have trouble getting 10 people to give you one definition, much less a million people to give you one definition. Universal healthcare. I don't even know what it means. I do not even, some people say it's socialized medicine or government medicine. No, I think those things suck. But I do think that treating it like a utility, where at least parts of it, at least the first parts, the entry points of it, would be very, very helpful to the peace of mind. And the reason I'm saying this is because I saw in Canada, the perception of the entry point of the healthcare system in Canada is really good. The perception of it, which creates incredible peace of mind for the populace. Now, when you get into the system, you start realizing limitations. You start having stress, but it's a small percentage of the people, small percentage of the time where they realize that, it's not quite as good as I needed it to be right now. And they fight and they have stress, but it's not the whole population having stress. It's that very small group when they're using it. And then you get out of the system, you have peace of mind again. But when you're in the system, it's stressful in Canada, but outside the system, there's peace of mind. So that's what I'm saying about America. We have the ability to create peace of mind when people are outside the system. But then when they get into it, we have so much capability. They should even be able to have more peace of mind they have in Canada. But we don't need more money, people to pay more money. We do not. We actually need people to pay a lot less money. I'm going to estimate about half of what they're paying today. Half of what they're paying today is my goal every single year. I want to make sure that my clients pay half of what they're going to pay if they went to a traditional mechanism doing this. That's my goal. And it's just it's always been, at one point I was 40%. We were kicking butt all the time. When I said 40% at first, it was really hard to do. And then it got too easy. So I moved it to 50. So it's a conceptual, I want people to spend about half of what they would spend. And because I want them to, with that extra money, freed up resources, I want it in the hands of the entrepreneurs. That's where I want that extra money, because then I want the entrepreneurs to be thoughtful about, what do I want to do with that? Do I want to expand my business? Do I want to buy a boat? Do I want to hire more people? Do I want to expand into other markets? Do I want to create more jobs? Do I want to give my people raises? Do I want to hire this expertise? I really don't care. I just want the entrepreneurs making that decision, not the tax man, not the big pharma, not the big insurance companies, not the big PE-owned hospital systems. I want the entrepreneur making those decisions, what to do with that money. I just want to be my role in democratizing healthcare is that free entry point into the healthcare system where people get the healthcare they need, they get the proper advocacy they need, and we help them make sure that they have the coverage they need. If they don't, then we'll find out some alternative funding. And that's there's other ways. You and I talked about in the green room a little bit about some alternative ways to help people when they get sick. But that's what I see should happen in America is we should use our resources and our capabilities in a very capitalistic way to be really clear on what should we make money on and try to make profits on, and then what things should we not try to make profits on or control the profits. Like public education, safe water, safe electricity, safe roads. Like there's some common sense things that we all know we're a better country because there's nobody out there gouging people over it.
Yeah. Well, your statistic of 90% of our services that most people get provide about 5% of actually the revenue of that $5 trillion of revenue, right? Approximately.
Depending where you draw the line. Some people might argue it's 10. You can't make an argument about 10.
90, whether it's 5 to 10 is still, it's pretty crazy. You know, you and I had some conversations on things that like people get and what they actually charge and what they get costs. I'd love if you go through like kind of a litany, like MRIs, right? Like does MRI cost $5,000 or is that true or false? And can you go through kind of a list so that people have an idea when you talk about what is being charged is actually not what it's costing? Because that was something that really opened my eyes where I'm going, what? Hold on. You're saying that actually doesn't cost this, it actually costs this? I think that would really help the audience maybe get some perspective on how much fat there is that doesn't have to be, that they don't have to participate in.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you 2 examples. The MRI, really common example, high volume. And then I'll also give you high blood pressure medication called Lisinopril. I'll give you 2 simple examples. But I'm going to change the frame a bit, and I'm going to give you ranges of costs of what anyone could get if they knew how, back in 2008 versus now. Okay. So I'm going to change frame of MRI. So in 2008, here's what I learned. MRIs are going out about $3,000, but I can also get them for $380. That was the range. So what would a logical person do if they knew that?
Go for the 380.
Assuming the quality is the same. It is the same. Assuming the quality of the read is the same, includes the technician. And if it's not, you always get a second opinion that costs about $200, $100. But 380 to 3,000. Where was it 3,000? Oh, the brand name hospital systems. Where was it 3,800? The guy across the street, this freestanding imaging that's not associated with a hospital. Okay, so $380 to 3,000. You got those locked in? Now let's go to today. Today, the 380 is down to about 250. Anywhere in the country, you get an MRI for 250. But the upper range, it was 3,000. The highest one I've seen, somewhere around $18,000. So now the range is $250 to $18,000. So where do you see the 18,000? You see it in the PE-owned hospital systems. Make sense?
Yeah. Well, that's why you can 3-4x when you're 6x. You know,
yeah, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know how you solve that problem. You have to make available the $250 MRI and make sure people know it and communicate it. But the system is not designed to do that. Very good people work in a system where they have to direct you to the $15,000, $3,000, $1,000, $12,000 MRIs. That's their job.
That's a 72x difference.
Yes. Okay. So now let me give you, and that happens a lot. You can probably imagine how many MRIs are done. That is the range of MRIs in America. And saying this, somebody's going to find an MRI that's cheaper than $250. Yes. Somebody's going to find MRI more expensive than $15,000. Yes. But that's a general range. But you see how the range changed from 2008 to today. But MRIs are a technology. Can you name another technology that didn't get cheaper? It shouldn't surprise us that 380 is now 250. It got cheaper. Now, there's people attached to reading it and expertise, so that's why I probably didn't get to free at this point. But it's still not more expensive. The lowest price MRIs are not more expensive today than they were in 2008. That is, you asked me earlier, maybe in the green room, like, what's a misconception? Like, everyone thinks healthcare is more expensive. No. Much of healthcare is less expensive today, but the administration of waste is much more expensive. So the overall cost and the tricks that are applied to scare us in order to get us to pay for that waste and administration are much greater and more costly. But the actual cost of the healthcare is not tremendously different. So if you can control the waste and the administration, the unnecessary parts of it, and the unnecessary activity, you can see how you keep low prices. I just told you our entire strategy. I've been saying this for years and telling people and encouraging people to let's go do this together. Let's go figure out how to get the prices that make sense. But I want to just double click on something first. So it's not just about the price of the activity, because the right price for that MRI that's on sale, or the regular price MRI that's $250 that you don't need, is zero. The right price for the MRI you don't need is zero. It's not an argument of $250 versus $3,000 or $250 versus $15,000. No, it's not an argument. The right price for the MRI is zero. Because maybe you don't, and right now, you use time. Maybe you don't need an MRI right now. What you need right now is an X-ray. And if it's broken, then let's do an MRI. And then instead of doing an MRI on 100% of the people, some of them at $15,000 or $3,000, maybe even some at $250. But it's 100% of them. Why not just do the X-ray on 100% of those, sprained ankles, and then in the ones that are broken, which might be less than a tenth, you just do an MRI on those ones. Or if you think there's ligamentous damage, other things involved, do the MRIs just where you need it after you do the X-ray. And what will happen is you do a lot less MRIs, which is great for the public, great for the consumer, great for the purchaser of healthcare, really, really bad for the MRI center. Really, really bad for the hospital that owns an MRI center. Really, really bad for the hospital or the PE company that owns the hospital, right? Somebody's revenue, right? So that's how healthcare gets so expensive, is when you have the fear and you don't know, and there's an asymmetry of knowledge. What do you do when you sprain your ankle? It's really bad and it's 11 o'clock at night. I have my insurance card. I go to the emergency room. Well, you just made a $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 decision, of which you pay a lot of it, depending what your family deductible and out-of-pockets are. Or could you have waited, put ice on it, wrapped it, had a bad night's sleep, wait till the morning, get a $30 X-ray? Yes. And by the way, that's what every doctor would do for their own family. None of them would go to the emergency room and knowing it's $6,000, $10,000 or what their whatever their out-of-pockets are. But the public is so afraid and without knowledge, and the asymmetry of knowledge is so, especially when our children are involved, right? We just there's an element of, I don't want anyone to judge me if something goes bad, so I got to do everything for my child. There's a lot of judgment right now in America, in the world. But let me jump to another situation. This happens way more often than MRIs. Drugs. And I wish Cost Plus Drugs and Mark Cuban were solving it this way. So if there's anyone I would want to understand this, it's Mark Cuban. Because I know he cares about drug pricing, the transparency. I think there's some stuff he might not know, or maybe knows it, but he doesn't know how to make money on it, or maybe he doesn't know how to make it happen. But I think that if he could, he would. I really do believe that. But let's say you have high blood pressure, and I've got and we need you on a generic Lisinopril. I know that if I send you to a retail pharmacy and I prescribe it as a capsule, so it's easy to swallow, it's about $280, $280 a month, somewhere around $3,300 a year to manage your high blood pressure, right? Just do the basic math. And that's in a retail pharmacy. What if I told you that retail pharmacy also owns your insurance company? And what if I told you that retail pharmacy also owns the pharmacy benefit management company that makes more money if your doctor orders a capsule versus a tablet? Then it's getting a little weird, isn't it? So $280, lock that in. But your copay might be $20, but your employer is paying the other $260. But it feels like the insurance company is paying because your employer doesn't even know that $260 was paid by the insurance company. They just see the premiums that come out the next year at renewal that go up 9.5% overall in the country for businesses, small businesses closer to 25% this year increase, again, on top of huge increases last year and every year before that. But we start to see, now you're going to start to see why those increases happen. That retail pharmacy owns the insurance company. They own the pharmacy benefit management company that makes the decision on what the pricing is that the insurance company will pay to the pharmacy that you will pay as a business through your renewal rates. You see how it's fitting together?
Yep.
Two moves that every doctor knows and would do for their own family. But if I did it for you and I had a contract with that insurance company, I would get a threatening letter saying that if I try to do something outside the system, maybe not specifically this situation, I can get through it. I'm afraid as a doctor in America to do what the insurance company says I can't do. Make sense? They're the ones writing the checks to me. So, but what if I were to take that capsule, a Lisinopril, 10 milligrams at that retail pharmacy, and I were to move it to a grocery store pharmacy, and I turned it into a tablet? The cost of that is about $2 a year, $2 a month, $24 a year. So from over 3,000 to well under 30. That's a much bigger gap. And that happens many, many times. And I'm telling you that the insurance companies own the PBMs. They make a lot of money off that. There's no incentive to tell people about the local pharmacy at the local grocery store. And there's no incentive to ask the doctors prescribing in a tablet or a capsule. There's actually the opposite. There's incentive to get us and the public, our patients, to go to the big retail pharmacies and to have the insurance companies that are associated with them and their PBMs. But when you see those cost differentials, over 3,000 a year to well under 30 a year for the same condition, the same person, the same doctor prescribing, you start to see where the opportunities are to take advantage of the capitalistic system, the entrepreneurial system that we have in America, the free market system we have in America. Some things are really good for a free market. Healthcare is terrible for most of healthcare. And I'll give you one example around the free market part. And because I know the diehard capitalists, of which I am one too, and Randians, right? That like it seems counter to it. But if I sell you apples and I put them on sale, you might buy two. If I make them more on sale, you might buy a bushel. If I make them so cheap, you might buy many bushels and make apple pies and give them away. But if I make that apple more expensive, you might not buy as many. If I make the apple more expensive, you might go buy oranges or bananas, right? So that's how free market works. But I ask you, when your appendix bursts, if I have a sale on appendixes, what are you going to do? You're going to have two of them taken out? And if I raise the price on appendixes, are you going to no, I'll just get half my appendix taken out? No. The free market breaks down fast when you're dealing with life emerging things. We would never apply the free market to the safety of our water. We would never apply a free market to the baseline of what is like the baseline minimum for public education, for the safety of our roads, for the safety of electricity. Like that is heavily regulated for good reason. And we do not want people taking shortcuts with electricity. We just not, or safety of water. I'm saying with healthcare right now, we don't want people doing what they're doing today. But it's not the people doing it. That's the thing. You can't point to one person doing it. And that's why Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos and Jamie Dimon failed, in my opinion, because they didn't see it as a system issue. They saw it as and they didn't understand the whole ecosystem, how all the relationships worked, how the interfaces with the people and with the purchaser, the users and purchasers worked. It's a very complex system that is hard to make money on. It's really hard to make money on unless you do it the way everybody's doing today in America. People don't make money in Europe or Asia or Canada, Mexico, South America on healthcare like they do in the United States.
Yeah. So, Dave, if people are listening to this, what are the top 3 things that you go, like if they're doing their doctoring, that you know for a fact, like that capsule versus tablet thing? I mean, just a simple nuance, and that saves almost like $2,900, right? Yeah. So what were the top three that you would say literally like, hey, you as a consumer, you go to the doctor, you need to start thinking about these types of like these top three things, and this is going to save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
Okay. I'm going to give you a frame that if they can think through, and I don't know they can, but I'm going to give you one frame if they can think through, will save them a lot of money and it'll get them better healthcare and give them more peace of mind if they can do it. But I'm telling you, it's hard. When I first started in 2008, I was your healthcare consumerism guy. I was like, I'm going to teach my employees, everyone around me, how to be a great healthcare consumer. I'm going to teach them how to get the $380 MRI when they need it versus the $3,000 one. I'm going to teach everybody. And that was a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of work. And but we did well with it. But what happened is the market changed. The tricks got harder. People forgot. People, like, they don't think about what we taught them 6 months ago about how to be a healthcare consumer until their child gets sick. And then all of a sudden they're scared and they can't remember any of what they learned 6 months ago. So I learned in 2008 that it was probably it took me to 2010 to really have it sink in, but there was lots of evidence early that I was wrong, that people cannot be great healthcare consumers. Impossible. And I came to that conclusion in 2010. If you think I was wrong then, you're not going to think that now. I mean, anything you can do as a consumer, I promise you, I can tell you 10 ways I could subvert your healthcare consumerism and take advantage of you because I know the system. You cannot do it on your own. We get tricked all the time. And we built our system so it's designed for us to know it when we get tricked so we can get things back on track. I've designed my systems to break when somebody out there does something that I never anticipated they would do. So I've created very defined breakpoints in our system so that we can identify it, measure it, and then get it. We don't even know sometimes why it happens, but we can nudge it, get it back on track so we can get the throughput we want. When I said that all our customers pay about half, that's my goal, half of healthcare than traditionally. For my own company, my goal is 25%. I want to pay 25% in my own company compared to, which is half of what my clients pay because I use my system better, right? It's a business we're in. But that's because I want to learn. I want to learn the new tricks. So we've got really tight awareness feedback loops for my own employees that I don't have for our customer. It would be very annoying for my customer. It would be too annoying. I'd be creating unnecessary annoyance for my customer if I did it. But I create friction in my own company so I can see when the system is starting to evolve or tweak, or so we can learn from it continually. But so I'm going to get to the thing I want your audience to know. But I'm just going to say it's really hard to be a healthcare consumer. And if I wanted to take advantage of you, Ben, the first thing I would do is convince you can be a great healthcare consumer. If I can convince you can be a healthcare consumer, it is so much easier to trick you, so much easier to scare you into giving me money that you don't want to, or time that you don't want to give. So the first thing I'd say, just know you can't be a great healthcare consumer. You can't. That doesn't mean you can't do a lot of things to get taken advantage of less. But if you think you can do anything to not get taken advantage of, you'll get taken advantage of more. That's my opinion. So just know you're going to be taken advantage of, but you can mitigate that. That is a really, really important point. You can mitigate. So that's what I'm going to tell you now is how to mitigate it. It's a mindset frame. It's a mind frame, if you will. And I'm going to use you an example here. If you have a child that is got really severe belly pain, middle of the night, what are you going to do?
I'd probably go to the emergency room in the middle of the night. That's probably would have been.
So what's the first thing they're going to do when you get there?
They're going to run a battery of like labs, tests, scans, all the good stuff.
Yeah, you would hope that's what they're going to do. But are they going to ask you for your insurance card first?
Oh, yeah. Yep. They'll ask me for my insurance card.
So you see how easy it is to right there, you got fooled as a healthcare consumer, right? So you went to step 4, that every hospital, every doctor out there, that's our step 4 is who's going to pay for it. Step 1 for the system is who's going to pay for it. That is a bad entry point into healthcare right there, is who's going to pay for it. Because now what you're thinking about is how much money is associated with this card, with this person. What are the rules for getting the most money out of this card? That is how the system works today. What I would ask people to do is change their mind. It's not about who's going to pay for it. Let that be step 4. You won't ignore it, but you'll put it as step 4. Step 1 is what is the healthcare I need? That's the first thing. What do I need? What diagnostics do I need? What treatment do I need? What specialist do I need? Like, start there. Don't even consider the money yet. You will. Number two is consider logistics. Capsule to a tablet is logistics. Big name brand corner retail pharmacy or grocery pharmacy, that's logistics. Location to pick up your medication is logistics. We'd agree?
Yep.
Yep. Right. So whether or not you take a ground ambulance or an air ambulance, that's logistics. Tremendously different costs. Whether you call on the phone or use our app, or whether you go see your doctor and send a claim in, that's logistics, right? The entry point into healthcare is logistics. So number one was the healthcare you need. Number two is get certain on what the logistics are. And that's where it's hard for people. It's easy for us because we can somewhat triage it is the word that's used. But we can say, do we need to go to the emergency room right now, or can we wait till to put some ice on it tonight and do an X-ray in the morning, right? That's the logistics of it, logistical decisions, because the logistical decision determines what the right price is, not the condition you have and the treatment you need. It does a little bit, but the logistics that you select is going to have a bigger impact on the price than the condition you have or the treatment you have. But so once you get the pricing based on logistics, now we think about who's going to pay for it. Just like your car, but you already do this as a human being intuitively with your car insurance, right? If you ding into somebody and it's your fault and you look at the fender and there's a $25 scratch on your fender and there's a $50 scratch on the other guy's fender, are you going to pull out your insurance card and submit to your insurance company? And is he going to do the same? No, you're going to say, it's my fault. Can I give you $50? Right? That's the best, because you know the cost. And so you're going to pay for it. It's the best way. So that's the same thing with the Lisinopril example. If I leave the logistics causes to be $3,000 a year, maybe $4,000 a year. Now how are you going to pay for it? A lot of people don't have $4,000. Half of American families don't have $4,000. So how are you going to pay for it? Your insurance. Right? But what if I get that price down to $22 a year? Now how are you going to pay for it? You're not actually kind of cash. It's a little silly to use your insurance. If you did, it's not going to cost 22 because there's all the administration and waste that's unnecessary on top of that. So pricing, should determine who's going to pay for it. Just like when you ding a fender bender with your car, the cost is going to dictate. There's other circumstances, was there injury, stuff like that. But it's first what you need. What are the logistics that are best? What are the costs, which are always based on logistics, not on healthcare need, hardly ever. Like $350 MRI in a freestanding, or $250 in a freestanding place, or $15,000 in the hospital. That's all logistics. That's all logistics. Now, there's some rare situations. Everyone brings up the 1% time where, well, what if they have to have the MRI right away? It's emergency. Yep. Then you're going to pay probably not 15. You'll probably easily negotiate down to 2,000. But even 15 to 2,000 is only in emergencies. The real price of the MRI, the starting place, first principle starting place is, and it's not even first principles, but 250 is reasonable, right? 250 is reasonable. And maybe it's 300, 400. If somebody pays 500, who cares? The big idea here is don't spend 15, don't spend 8, don't spend 3, don't spend 1,000 for an MRI ever, 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 never, unless it's extreme emergency and you have to get it done in the hospital. That's some basics. So healthcare they need, number one. Then consider the logistics, timing of it, urgency of it, capsule versus tablet of it, and then and then the cost of the logistics, and then how am I going to pay for is last. And if you want to save money as an American, you want to make your healthcare dollar go further, here's a number one move. Think like this. This is the number one mindset, but the number one move and action is don't use your insurance. Figure out if you can pay cash first. Don't even tell me you have insurance. When my appendix burst 2 years ago, I got Redirect Health. I've got insurance through our, through our company. Same thing you've got. I go in there. I just say, no, I'm going to pay cash for this. Be nice to me. I'm going to pay cash for this. And I'll pay you fast. Just give me the bill fast. I got a burst appendix. I got a fever, a lot of pain, and I'm doing this. My wife just thinks I'm just crazy doing this, but I want to test it. I want to see what happens. How often am I going to be able to test it with a real burst appendix in surgery? And never. So it's midnight and I'm talking to the person at the front desk with a belly full of pain and a fever and in rural Arizona up in the mountains. And I'm going, yeah, no, I'm not going to use insurance. I'll just pay you. Be nice to me. If I can get the bill before I leave, that'd be great. And by the way, I got that bill down to about $6,900, and then I got fooled when I handed it off, and I paid an extra 12 because I screwed up at the very end. So trust me, I just got I didn't get fooled. I just got lackadaisical. I thought I was done, and I wasn't. And they got me for I handed off to my staff, and one of my staff members asked a question that I'd already asked, and I'd already got the answer. But because he asked it again, she gave him a $12,000 answer. I got a $0 answer. He got a $12,000 answer, and he added to my bill. But if I kept going with it, I wouldn't have had that. I wouldn't have asked that question. So I didn't get fooled, but I made a mistake. And here's my point. If I can make a mistake 2 years ago after doing this for 30 years, that cost me $12,000. What chance do you think you have, Ben? None.
Yeah.
You have none. And we hired our insurance companies to protect us. They're not. Their incentives are different than yours. We hired the doctors in the hospitals to protect us. They're not. Their incentives are different.
And I think that people, as they're hearing this, I think the maybe the direction people can go is we're going to demonize or like make these people enemies. At the end of the day, insurance companies, they're just doing their job, and they're doing their thing is to be able to to drive shareholder price. Doctors are, doing their thing, and
we don't have a choice. When we work for a private PE owned hospital, we don't have a choice. When an insurance company pays our bills, we don't have a choice. When an insurance company says, we need you to collect these diagnoses, I don't have the option of saying they're irrelevant. I don't have that option because they're otherwise what they will do is they'll terminate my contract. Otherwise what they'll do, and I've had this happen to my doctors for not playing ball, when not collecting irrelevant diagnoses that are very complex to collect. I've had them say, okay, because of quality, you are quality, meaning we don't collect enough diagnoses that in my opinion are irrelevant. My doctors, that's quality. That means that if somebody wants to see you that's a member of our insurance company, they have to pay double to see you. Their copays are $40 now instead of $20 if they want to see you. So imagine that as a doctor. I'm a doctor and you see me and you have a $20 copay, and then your insurance company tells you that if you keep seeing me, your copay is now $40, but here are 20 other doctors you can see where the copay is $20. How do I fight that? I can't. Doctors can't fight it. And I'm telling you that all the insurance companies have been doing exactly what I just said for 15 years, since the Affordable Care Act started in 2010. They've all been doing it. And without mentioning names, I would encourage you to go Department of Justice, insurance companies, and you'll see big names right now where they're talking about criminal action from the Department of Justice, and also I think against board members of these insurance companies. So there might be an element of people doing things in us taking advantage of a system that's very bad. I don't want to say those people are bad, but the system is so bad that good people are made to do some things that just aren't good. But it wasn't good 15 years ago either. And if there's any difference between me and somebody else, I probably was a little more attuned to what was going on because I was from Canada and I wasn't used to it. So it's like the contrast was too big for me to handle. There was too much suffering in that contrast, where others around me in my profession, they seemed like they were tolerating it just fine. It's just, because they were being nibbled away. The pain was just getting slightly, like a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse, a little bit worse. For me, it was dramatic.
yeah. Well, I want to talk a little also about right, because we've been talking about hey, you have an illness, right? But let's talk about being like that you're sick, right? Because you've also been doing some work on that factor, right? Because when you when you actually have an illness, that doesn't mean that it's done, right? Okay, they've got the insurance, house, your 4 steps, right? And eventually someone's gonna have to pay for it. How's it gonna pay? The logistics, right? What type of care? But there's the aspect of when you're actually sick and maybe you can't maybe can't work. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you're working on that are in that vein, that are about like, what happens when you're sick?
But I want to remind you that the main goal, and I'm very big into mission, and the mission here is about that peace of mind that only happens when you believe you have easy, simple, affordable, available access to healthcare. It's not about you go find out when your child is sick that you can get healthcare. It's that you got a perfectly healthy child, and you know that if they get a fever tomorrow, they break their leg tomorrow, they get cancer tomorrow, you're going to be okay, right? That peace of mind of knowing if something happens, you're going to be okay. So that is the starting place. So it's really important they understand that. Okay, so it's not just about saving money in healthcare. That is a means to get to that peace of mind around healthcare, right? And when I say healthcare, call it sickness care. I'm at that part of the hierarchy I'm at is when people are sick or they're injured and they're scared. I fully respect the people who want to make people healthier in longevity world. Different, but it's a different industry to me. It's not the part of the hierarchy I'm in that I care about. I care about the suffering there, not about the opportunity. I care about both, but I mean, my work is about the suffering people have and the peace of mind they don't have. And I'm very appreciative of people who are really energetic and passionate about longevity and fitness and being healthier. I love it. That's not the business I'm in though. Because I see the problem I want to solve is around that suffering, that peace of mind that's not there right now. So what I know is that the cost of healthcare is one thing. When you get cancer, or you can't work. It's hard to work. You got to go doctor's appointments. You feel sick. You're run down. You just can't eat right. You can't exercise right. Your life is disrupted. But even if you just break your leg, or frame your ankle, you might not be able to do your work. But if you can't do your work, most of Americans get paid hourly. What happens when we don't do our work? Most jobs, you don't get paid. You don't get paid. How easy is it easier or harder to pay our rent? Well, most Americans today, hourly workers, they're struggling to pay their rent already without a sprained ankle, without cancer, without a broken leg, without having a baby. They're already struggling to make ends meet. And the United Way has a project called the ALICE Project, which is asset limited, income constrained, employed people. And it identifies that well over half of Americans cannot afford base level of food, shelter, transportation, and healthcare. The cost of those today, over 50%. So this concept that people can really afford healthcare, food is always going to be more important than healthcare. Getting to work is going to be more important. Shelter, like not living on the street, is going to be more important for almost most Americans. Healthcare is going to be a fourth position to those three things. So if we already are struggling with those three things, the healthcare is going to take a back seat to it. Definitely fitness and longevity are going to take back seats, right? They're not going to be as important in that hierarchy. But so we understand that. And so we understand when somebody gets sick or breaks a leg or sprains an ankle, their whole life is disrupted sometimes. Their ability to make rent and pay for food and transportation and all that stuff is highly stressed and compromised. So we created something called Impact Together. And I partnered, and my wife, we created a foundation also to be able to donate money to, so that but where we donate money to is Impact Together. And Impact Together is built into our platform, Redirect Health's platform. And basically it's a crowdsourcing for the help that you need when you're sick or injured. The way it starts is you set up your community of friends and family, and you have different privacy levels depending on how you want to pick it. And then you just have a calendar and you put what you need, what help you need. And the help might be groceries, mowing the lawn, taking the dog out, drive to the doctor, my copay, my deductible, could be money, but it could be non-financial also. And we make it really easy for people to tell their loved ones and family, loved ones, family, friends, coworkers, whoever they want to, what they need. It's really hard when you're sick to ask for what you need. And it's really hard when you want to help somebody who's sick to know what they need. So the communications doesn't happen really well. So we call it Impact Together, and it's just a name we gave it. And what I want to do is create that efficiency where the person who's asking can efficiently tell you what I need, and the person who wants to offer help can efficiently know what they need and deliver it. And it's really brokering that help. And I don't care if it's mowing the lawn or walking the dog, or I need $50 for my copay. It just doesn't matter. It's whatever it is that you need to help crowdsource the communication of that need and the delivery of that need. And then we attach a foundation to it, because sometimes people ask for money. We want to be able to add some money to it. And But what inspired this was a guy named Raul Mahadevan. We were setting up our foundations at the same place, and we had a very similar passion for wanting to help people. So he had created a platform called We're In This Together, WIT, WITT, and he was doing it for cancer patients. And he had cancer, and it was around the idea that people get cancer, they have a lot of needs, like I mentioned, beyond financial, and they've got a lot of family members who want to help, but it's very inefficient communication. So he created this for cancer, and the foundation managers, my foundation, his foundation, said, you guys got to talk. So we started talking, and Dan Sullivan, as you know, is all about collaboration. So I was really in a collaboration mindset. And I was thinking, man, how could we work together to create something that neither of us could create separately? How could we collaborate? And so he had this platform for helping people with cancer efficiently communicate their needs and people efficiently deliver on those needs. It's almost like it's a calendar with like a registry of what I need. You just build your calendar and then your community sees it. So what we did is we repurposed it for Redirect Health, where it's not just cancer. Now it's everything and anything. And he's attached the WIT Foundation to We're In It Together. So his foundation and our foundation connect to it to help with that. And it's not built out as much as I wanted to. It's not used as much. Now we've got it's working. We got a working MVP. I wouldn't say it's scalable at this point. It's way beyond the prototype for sure. And the people who have used it that we put on it, they found an incredible benefit. And it's really embarrassing for a lot of people when they have a need to say, hey, I need some help to walk my dog. By the way, it's a Great Dane, and I have 3 of them, and I got a broken leg. I don't know what I'm going to do. Right? It's really hard for people to say that to their coworkers, but they can say it to our platform. Then coworkers can decide whether or not that's a reasonable ask or not. It's just inefficient. We're brokering with creating some efficiency around the asking and delivering and help that many human beings, the help they need and the help they want to deliver. We just create that efficiency. And it works really well in our model because we deal with a lot of people who have illnesses that are hourly workers that are already limited in assets and are already struggling with their grocery bills, already struggling with their rent payments and their car payments.
Well, David, it's a good thing that you followed your wife's lead and went through the medical world, only to end up back in engineering. And how I started this whole conversation in,
hey, if you saw how pretty she was, you'd understand it. And she was smart. She did a lot of my studying for me and let me shared a lot of notes. I don't know I would have got through school without her. I said, that's a true statement.
well, it's a good thing because you end up becoming an engineer. And as I started this, you're not a disruptor. I think you're more of like a transparency provider, and I think that you're an innovator and that you're engineering some really great solutions so that people don't have to suffer. David, if people want to find out more about you, where do they go? They like socials, like if they go, man, hey, I would like that either for my company, or boy, I'd actually like to have someone like that on my side as I'm navigating my own like healthcare or, my sick care journey, right? Like where can they find you?
Yeah. So our website, redirecthealth.com, is where they can learn about the health plans that we built on top of our platform. If they want to know more about our platform and what we do with it in the future, they can just reach out to me. My email is david.berg, BERG, like iceberg, at redirecthealth.com. I'm on LinkedIn too. I don't go to it very often. I definitely like to be behind the scenes. I'm not that forward face, so you're not going to see me out there. You're not going to see a lot of content from us. We got some really big dreams, and our dreams keep expanding more than any content would. The way we monetize our company today is by getting people in health plans that are on our platform for individuals and for companies. We have various products depending on the size of the companies. And we back into a price point that we think makes sense for those companies. I mean, when I say back into it, I mean, if we include everything in the kitchen sink, it's going to be the same price as everyone else. Maybe a little cheaper, maybe 20% cheaper. If we just include everything everyone else does, I bet you we'd be 20% cheaper. Still really good. And I think our increases would be somewhere around 6% a year, still less than the traditional. But why not go a step further? If there's some things that are in there that are just low value, meaning they're very infrequent, they're very expensive, hit huge price differentials, and there's really good alternative programs, including Impact Together that we built as just an alternative program with our foundation and the WIT Foundation that we built, right? It's just human beings built these programs. So if something is really infrequent, really expensive, and there's alternative ways to pay for it, that is really low value to put into your system. You can spend a lot of money as an employer um, and put it in your system. I'd rather just take those things out strategically, find another way to take care of them. And that's how we get from a 20% savings down to a 50% savings, is by being strategic on what we exclude, knowing we have a backup answer for the rare occasions it happens. But the backup solution is way less expensive than if I put it in the primary plan. So we have different products based on what the different needs are. The bigger companies want less exclusions. The smaller companies want lesser price. So we have ways to change the plan design and strategically. The same platform for all of the plans, products we build, but we have different plans depending on what the size companies need. So when you go to our website, you'll see it divided up by size of company or individuals. But we also make a lot of plans custom for some of our bigger clients. And that's where I'm getting really excited by it right now. The stuff we built off the shelf works really, really well, and it's where we get paid the most today. But I see the future being about two things. One is helping those bigger companies, like their customized needs, but the bigger idea that probably goes out to hundreds of thousands of people. And that's what I can imagine anyway at this point. But what's most exciting to me is taking this to tens of millions of people by having a free entry point, a free app that people can put in front of any insurance they have, any coverage they have. I don't care if it's Medicare, Medicaid, any one of the traditional insurance companies, could be one of our plans. Doesn't really matter. It's already in our plan, in front of our plans, but they can put our platform in front of any plan they want. So they're not obligated. I don't want them to be obligated by our plan to use our platform and to get this benefit. And that's how we get to tens of millions of people. And that is where we're going. And that's where the excitement is. And I mentioned working with Lior Weinstein, the strategic coach earlier, might have been in the green room. And that's the thing that he and I are most excited about, is taking what we've already built and decoupling it from the health plans and where we monetize it today, and figure out how to get it in front of anybody's health plan, not even just ours, and then monetize that. And there's many ways we thought of. And I just thought of a new way on the way into this podcast. I haven't talked to Lior about to monetize it, to make it even more valuable.
That's very cool. That's very cool. David, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And as you know, I like to let our guests have the last word, the last ripple, kind of the last thought. What would you tell our audience in kind of as they close in this podcast?
I would tell them to have hope that this broken system has a lot of really, really smart, well-intentioned, well-funded people, unlike in the past, looking at this same problem. And I believe that where it's all going to end up is going to be about controlling the cost and the value that people get, and the screwed up profit incentives and schemes in the country. I think it will get solved. And I can't imagine we're going to do what we're doing for another 10 years. It's hard for me to imagine. There's too many people. 10 years ago, there's nobody. I couldn't find anybody to talk to about. Today, it's unlimited. I find new people who care about this problem anytime I look. My perception is there are hundreds or thousands of people today where I couldn't find any 10, 15 years ago. So I would say have hope. And I would say just question it. Don't use your insurance first. Insurance is the last resort for how you're going to pay for something. If the insurance is the best option, then do it, but not first. Like, start with everything else. Start with the mindset of, my insurance is not a good way to pay for my healthcare. Start there. And you can end up there. You'll spend less money if you have a different starting point in your mind about paying for it. Insurance is the worst way to pay for healthcare, in my opinion. And even on my own plan, when my appendix burst, I didn't want to tell anyone I had it, because I wanted to get the healthcare I needed. I want to manage the urgency and the logistics I needed. I want to get the right price, and then I'll figure out then I'll pay for it. And even there, I didn't quite take it. I got fooled on it. And it was, I'm over it now, but man, I was embarrassed when it happened to me. So I get that. You get that embarrassment when you get taken advantage of. You don't want to tell people. You just want to be mad. You want to blame them. But there's nobody bad that I could blame. It was just the system. And I couldn't even blame myself for it, ultimately.
I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing so candidly and just giving such really good nuggets on the state of the union, but also like what it can be. And thank you for being on the podcast, David.
Oh, my pleasure. And I really appreciate your enthusiasm over the years, Bet, for what we're doing. And thanks for being a customer. And I appreciate your encouragement for doing all we're doing. That enthusiasm and encouragement, and that you're a customer, means so much to me.
You're very welcome, and 100%.
Thank you for listening. A big thanks to Elation Lab for the production and creative design. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Keep listening for more Max Life.